welcome to episode 107 of Missile Industries Ford Falcon 351 project. Now, I've been slack, I will admit that, and I still haven't got this car professionally tuned, but in the downtime I've had, I have been doing a little bit of stuff on the side for this car, which started out with finding true top dead center, which I had jacked the car up front end only, and with the help of my kids established top dead center on my new harmonic balancer, and it is indeed correct. So the 0 time mark worked out to be exactly top dead center where it needed to be, so that was good. And I left the car with the front end jacked up in the shed unattended for the best part of a week before I came back to the garage and discovered a giant puddle of transmission oil under the car, and it hadn't even been started or driven anywhere. And as it turned out, it was leaking out of the speedo drive cable. I was pretty horrified, and I came to the conclusion that I probably had the car jacked up too high at the front and not jacked up at all at the rear for the first time ever, and that caused all the transmission fluid to drain to the back of the gearbox where the tail shaft speedo was, and it all leaked out of there. At least that was my theory anyway. So I jacked the rear of the car up nice and high, started the car up, and it ran on 6 or 7 cylinders, ran really badly. So I turned the car off. It continued to leak transmission fluid, so I pulled the plugs, had a look at them, and they were quite sooty. And I've also discovered in the early part of this year that I've actually been going down to colder heat range plugs, because NGK plugs, the number goes higher as the heat range goes colder. Now, I didn't know that, so I went from a heat range 5 to a heat range 6, and that just put a colder heat range again into it. So I've swapped a full set of heat range 5 plugs into this car, and it fired right up. I shifted it through the gears while it was up on the axle stands, and the transmission leak stopped, which was a relief because it's out of warranty. So I haven't driven the car since then, because obviously the BMW stuff has been going on, but the BMW is coming back 2 or 3 days time from getting the exhaust done. So this car needs to go over there where that motorcycle is sitting. So what I think I'm going to do, take this car for a drive, make sure it still works, make sure it runs, make sure it doesn't ping, because I have readjusted the timing, and I've got it set to like 14 degrees initial timing and 34 degrees total timing now, so it makes sense. Seems to run alright with the new plugs and the new timing settings, but I haven't driven it anywhere. So today's that day. Let's see how bad a cold start is after months and months and months of not leaving the shed. So far so good, it's idling. It's time to flick the gecko turds off this car and go pick the kids up from school in it. One you can sit in the front, right?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Make sure you shut the back door properly. I wonder if that's a wig. Probably not. just enough room to get the door down and get the Ford in behind my motorcycle. Just need to find a home for this crap before the BMW comes home. Yes. Problem solved. Summary time for episode 107 of Missile Industries' Ford Falcon 351 project. As I suspected right when I bought the car way back when, if I'm not pointing a camera at it and thinking of something to do with it to put on YouTube, it barely gets a look in. So now that I've driven it somewhere and it behaved perfectly fine, it's back on the roster to drive around, and as always the case, when I drive the car, I remember how much I really enjoy being in it. It's a great car to drive around in, and now the weather's getting a bit cooler, it's actually a more pleasant place to be. So I'll roll it out over these cooler Queensland months and make an effort to enjoy the car. On another note, I bought another motorcycle over Easter, but this time it was in parts, because this bike here is now the bike that I bought in parts, and the leftovers are sitting over there with my leftover VY exhaust system, but I'll get to that in another video.